I really thought I'd bought my last diesel about 10 years ago. Promised myself I wouldn't have another one because the world moved away from diesel. It became too dirty, then everyone stopped making them, and what was the point? And then recently, I thought to myself, I've got to do a few miles this year, and I don't want to do them at 10 miles to the gallon like I always do in my M5 Touring. I want something that can chew the miles and give me some fuel economy. And I started looking at Panamera V8 diesels, and I thought I'd like one of them. But they'd all done moon miles, and they cost quite a lot of money. There was nothing less than 80,000 miles, about 30-something grand. I thought that's quite a lot, really, for this. So why don't I look at something else? And then I remembered driving an Alpina B3 diesel. Sorry, a D3 as it was called. And thinking that was rather a good car many years ago. So I looked on the interweb and I found one for sale and I bought it. I have to say, for a car that I wasn't really looking for, I have stumbled across a piece of genius here. I knew this thing was brilliant back in the day, but it was just off my radar because it was a diesel. It's Euro 6, so it goes through all the Bristol ULEZ and the London ULEZ. It does God knows what MPG. It's massively fast. It's like it was made to be driven in Britain. And I tell you what, the critical thing here is this. If you look at your average journey in the UK, if you've got a varied use of a motor vehicle, you don't have the same rat run, not the same commute. If you do a mixture of motorways and A roads and B roads and sitting in traffic and town and what have you, how often do you actually get to use all the performance in your big Fettuccine Lamborghini supercar or your massive V10 M5 estate car? Not that often. And if you break it down into journeys, I reckon on a 150-mile journey that might take you 3 hours, you probably have 3 or 4 opportunities to do this. Gas it, get past something, and then settle down to the legal limit, to your normal, rather mundane cruise. So if you look at it that way, how often do you actually need that performance? And if you run a very, very high-powered car with poor fuel economy, what are you spending to give yourself those few brief moments of overtaking bliss or some noise? Quite a lot. Maybe that's the crux of being a car enthusiast, is that you're willing to spend that money for those few rare moments. But in this role, I was becoming increasingly fed up with it. Don't get me wrong, I love that estate car. It's brilliant. But it's got a tiny fuel tank, and it does do 17 to the gallon. This car is so clever because it provides all the performance you want for those moments, and it does 40 odd to the gallon. And I suppose I'd just forgotten that's what a really high performance diesel can do. But maybe the fact that the Alpina package brings so much more with it is what I love. We'll have a look around the car now, you can see some details, and I'll tell you why I think this thing is rather exquisite. It's not quite as special as Alpinas of old, because they had slightly better leather and maybe more special sort of trinkets to them. But this car is still a cut above a standard 3 Series. And for what I paid for it, it is an absolute bargain. Car park details walk around. Added my below zero ice driving hat there. Well, have a look first. Stripes. We like Alpina stripes, don't we? They look gorgeous. Have a look in here. Come on, have a look in here. Alpina dials. Alpina plaque. I know it's just a 3 Series, but if you just add a few little bits and bobs, suddenly it lifts the whole experience. I'll jump in and demonstrate. Alpina thin rim steering wheel. For me, it's a great cabin, and also it's got buttons. It has buttons. It doesn't have all these screens. It's got lovely clock faces with needles that move, and it's just a lovely thing. I honestly think the F30 3 Series is a classic. It's a great sized car with a really simple cabin that still feels high quality, but not too complicated. I really love it. Have a look around the outside and show you the engine as well. So, oh look, there we go. Get rid of all that stuff. Pretty basic BMW diesel, twin turbocharged by Alpina, over 500 foot-pounds. It's a monster. Find me another car that has this much torque and weighs this little and has this smaller footprint on the road. It's a whopper. It's a whopper of torque in a little car. Right, round the back. This is the bit that's a little bit fraudulent, round the back here, right? It has quad Akrapovic exhaust tips on a diesel. What's that all about? No one needs that, do they? I mean, they look quite good, but it has 4 pipes. I mean, they're not dummies. She's running at the moment. I mean, is it not a good looking car? I think it is. Let's have a look at the wheels, okay? Have a look at a wheel. Classic Alpina rim. I quite like this particular one. They change them minutely over time, don't they? I've had so many Alpinas over the years, and I have to have them with that multi-spoke design. I think they look wonderful. That's a 20-inch wheel. I'd rather have a 19, but clear glass, chrome strip, stickers. I mean, it's like retired Bavarian GP who's inherited a load of cash spec for me. That gorgeous. Yes, it's an Alpina, it doesn't belong on a circuit, but you can't go fast on the public highway anymore, and I want to know what it's like going fast, so we'll have a little look. Quite often with these things, when you have a go in a very road-based car, you realise they're quite good at going on a circuit as well. Of course, irritatingly, this thing's doing just that. Those Michelins have got loads of grip. That slightly more supple suspension actually means it finds more grip on this bumpy Welsh circuit. The gear shift, if you go into manual mode, is much faster than I realised. I've never even moved the lever into manual before. It's the first time. So let's brake into this corner here. We've got an open diff. This doesn't have the optional diff, which is fine for me. I don't need it in daily driving. I just leave it with the ESP on. Now it's off. So we've got so much torque. We're in 3rd gear. Let's see what it does round here. Oh, immediately, yeah. It'll slide. It's got well over 500 foot-pounds of torque. It's comical. You just go up a gear. I'm now in 6th gear at 60 miles an hour. Put your foot down. It just goes. Steering, miles nicer than any M car. It just feels like a sort of old hydraulic steering system. It's got loads of feel. It weights up nicely. Crucially, it's got this thin little rim on the steering wheel, which is, can you say the word rim in a car video? I suppose you can. It's just much nicer than an M steering wheel. Seat, not very good around the track. I'm sort of falling out of it. Brakes, well, it doesn't have massive sorts of holes in the disc and everything, but it stops really, really well. It doesn't seem to fade. This gear shift here is remarkable on this ZF automatic gearbox. Almost DSG-like. Yeah. So, not that you ever want to go anywhere near a circuit, but it is very, very competent. Let's give it another go. It could do with a diff, actually. It does do the old one-tire fire. If we really lob it about, it's really, really competent. And the engine, oh, I know it's pretty silent, but it's a masterpiece. It's so effective is the word. There's no emotion to it at all. It's just a virtually silent device. But with that much torque, I don't even care what the power figure is. 5th gear now, 50 miles an hour, put your foot down. That is outrageous. And do you know what? It does sound quite nice. It doesn't sound like the Porsche V8 diesel, but it's still a pleasant sounding thing. Might fit a differential to it. I gather Birds UK will do a cheeky little diff for it, so I might have a little look at that so we can slither around a bit more. But no, tell you what, it's mighty fast as well. Mighty, mighty fast. Back to the road. On the road, well, we've always talked about Alpine as having bespoke Bilstein dampers and special Michelin tyres. They do. This car is nothing like an M3 on the road. It's much, much softer. Those big 20-inch Michelins give quite a bit of tyre noise, which I find a bit annoying. And it's a 3 Series, so it's going to be limited in what it can do ride-wise. I know that. Maybe I should have bought a D5. I'm not sure, because that really has the same engine. So you lose that ridiculous sense of having 500 foot-pounds of torque in a vehicle that weighs 650, 700 kilograms. As those of you that listen to my podcast will realise, I spend a lot of my time thinking, why would you buy a new car? This thing makes me ask that question even more insistently. It's doing 35.2 to the gallon. I mean, that's unheard of. And on the road, honestly, I mean, I could get an M3 down a specific road maybe a bit quicker and I might enjoy the noise a bit more, but really, there's not much in it. You'll have noticed that actually this car doesn't have a D3 badge on the back of it because the previous owner, I think, was a bit ashamed that he'd bought the diesel and took the badge off. I'm going to put it back on because I think this car is better than a B3. I mean, it's got 500 mile range, it does 40 something to the gallon, and it'll do 170 miles an hour. It's an all-rounder, and something about all-rounders appeals to people like me. I like all-rounders in cricket, I like all-rounders in rugby, so sporting all-rounders means they're just better. They've got skills that you expect they shouldn't have. And this car really has done that for me. I am driving it the whole time. I've had it for about 9 weeks and I've done 5,200 miles because it just fits with my life. Clear glass, stickers, standard stuff. I'd like the smaller wheels, like I said, but otherwise, if you can find one of these, a D3 or a D3 or a D4, because the coupe has the same powertrain, go and drive it. It is spectacular. Here endeth the lesson.